Welcome back to True Serum. We're live tonight. Travis Sumter, TJ Sumter 55. You find me on Twitter, find me on Facebook. Got a couple special guests here tonight. Go ahead and introduce yourself, guys.
I'm David. Been around with TSF since beginning of the season last year. Started writing articles for them and doing a few other projects that we're working on. And here to show these fellas how to do a draft.
That's great. My name's David as well. You can find me on TikTok, YouTube, or Twitter at DMN. Excuse me, DMN Straight FF, Damn Straight Fantasy Football. Thanks for having me, guys.
Obviously, Pinecker, what's going on? You can find me only at TSF Memorabilia.
Exclusive.
Got to take a second, guys. Just there for so everybody knows, my mom just said hi, guys. There.
How's it going?
Hello, Karen. So I brought David on tonight. I was kind of fanboying for him on TikTok a little bit, so I added him and followed him, and he followed me, and we kind of got to talking, and I decided to bring him on. I feel like he's a very knowledgeable. What do you call it, a fantasy expert? So I brought him on tonight to kind of share his insight. We're gonna get this draft rolling here.
Yeah, share your screen still too.
Yeah, it's not. It's slowing up.
What's going on, Jason?
That's my boy. He's from he's in my Splash Brothers league here in my home league.
Yeah, nice. So he's gonna take all your picks from you now?
Well, he's not in the draft here itself, but maybe we'll get him in on one of the mocks. What the heck is going on here? Sorry, we're having some difficulty. There we go. All right. We kind of see things here.
Yeah. All right, give me a good pick. Come on.
All right. There we go.
Oh.
Come on, the last pick.
That's not that bad. It's better than the middle picks.
Nah, because I got Travis right before me and Brandon right before him.
So we're gonna begin this draft here. David's on the clock.
All right, perfect. As long as I didn't end up at the turn, I feel like I have a general idea of what I want to do. So this makes it a little bit easier having the first overall pick. So
you mean being at the turn like me?
Yeah. For some reason, I always end up there. So I was like, I'll just put myself there. I already know what's going to happen. Totally threw a curveball for me. But we're going to be doing a Dynasty Superflex. I still think, I still think you can find good value for quarterbacks later on. And even though he came off an injury, I still believe he has a lot left. So I'm going to continue to go with Christian McCaffrey.
Attaboy.
Sometimes you don't need to overthink it.
I am always the guy that in all these super flex leagues, everyone starts slamming all these quarterbacks, and I'll wait till like the 11th, 12th round and get someone that's still going to be solid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, there's even guys, later on that with the rushing upside should be able to get you the points that you need.
Right. And I mean, he went down with that injury last year, but he came back from that injury and put up 30-something points right off the bat. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he got another injury, but I mean, last year was the year of injuries. You can't really expect that to happen every year.
Right. Yeah, and it was crazy too. I think in 2019, I mean, the amount of points that he put up was pretty much up there with like top end quarterback ones, which is
Right.
just ridiculous for the running back position.
I mean, he was averaging almost 30 points at right around 30 points.
Right.
Show some love for Josh. I guarantee he's probably not making it past the second round.
She's a big old Bills fan, that one.
Yeah.
She still relives the glory days of the 90s.
Mm-hmm. I got a
Wait,
Bills John Brown jersey I can sell you for, you know?
I just want to give a quick shout out to Chris Pinto. He's kind of one of the guys that brought me into fantasy. So thank you, Chris. Thanks for joining us. Zach Kurtz, you're the man. You've always been the man. Love you. So then we had Mahomes, Cook, Kyler. It's kind of interesting. Saquon and Derrick Henry go off the board. And I just want, for viewers at home, if you're not aware, this is going to be in a dynasty format, also super flex league. So 2 QBs, and we're going to be starting 3 wide receivers and 2 flex spots.
I feel like going Derrick Henry that early is a little bold.
Yeah, I mean, I probably would have like JT just got taken as the 7th pick. I probably would have taken him over Henry. There's a possibility I might have even taken him over Barkley, just because with Barkley's injury, it was a way different injury than CMC. And I mean, unless you're Adrian Peterson, you hardly ever come back and do amazing the next year.
No. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do have a question. Yeah, I brought this up in one of my videos earlier this week, but do you think that I know that some people think about running backs as like, all right, once they hit 27 or that age apex or whatever, they'll hit that steep decline. But do you think that we'll start to see, some running backs kind of still putting up high-end numbers, into their late 20s or early 30s in some respect because of the lack of carries that some of them get, compared to like Derrick Henry, who he's a great example of close to 400 carries.
That's the thing too, is it all depends on what you were used for. If you're used like Derrick Henry, you're not making it. You got a couple solid years, then you'll end up as someone's backup, and it's just how it's gonna go.
I sort of agree, but if you think about it, none of those other guys, none of the people who aren't being used that much are putting up those numbers either. So these guys, they'll keep putting up their okay numbers, but I don't see any of them hitting Derrick Henry levels in their 30s just because they're fresher than Derrick Henry. Mm-hmm. There will be one team or one running back backs to take over.
I'm just saying more of along the lines of like how Derrick Henry is used. He's used constantly, and he's used like run through those people. Like if you're looking at someone like Josh Jacobs isn't forced every down to run through a guy. You know what I mean? Those more finesse guys, I think, will be able to last a little bit longer because they're not constantly. Not only are they not getting hit every single down, but they're also not trying to hit someone every single down.
Mm-hmm. So when do you think we'll see the fall off from Derrick Henry then?
I give him like 3 years tops. Honestly. All right.
I guess, I'd normally say, another 2 years or so, but conditioning and all the other things that go into it these days is so much more advanced. I mean, he could last longer than, Bettis did back in the day and the other bruising backs.
I just want to bring up a comment from Evan Krill here. He's in this draft here, and he's in a championship now type of owner. And I just wanted to say you should always be in that, that mode when you're in a dynasty league. You should always want to win now.
Are you guys a big fan of trading your future picks for assets every year? What do you guys like to do in terms of your pick management?
I've never done a dynasty league till this year, and I took over a team that was. Let's just say I understand why the owner wanted to quit. It was pretty ragged, and I still wanted to win right now, so I traded all of my picks for the next 3 years. But I have Herbert and I have Trevor Lawrence. My team this year is nice.
Yeah, at that point you can just use all those picks and other players to trade up and fill up running back, wide receiver. Once you got the quarterbacks figured out, I feel like that's the biggest thing.
All right.
Well, especially in the
I'm not going to be happy doing this because I hate taking 2 wideouts right off the bat. I did this last time too, but it's hard for me to pass up what everyone's at right now.
Everybody's there at the wide receiver position, yeah.
Right, and at the same time, no, you know what? Went Tyreek Hill and then I went Nick Chubb. Just because I know that if I take 2 wideouts right now, there ain't gonna be running backs by the time it gets back to me. The running backs are gonna get slammed. They do every time. Usually when you get down to like the end of the 3rd round, that I've noticed is in super flexes at least and dynasties, you're looking at running backs and quarterbacks are flying off the board. By the end of the round 3, there's like maybe 5, 6 wideouts that are usually taken.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said Prescott could be a steal. Do you guys think Prescott's going to come back and do up those 3,000-yard receivers like they were talking last year?
This defense is still going to be just as terrible, if not worse. I don't even know how it could get any worse, but it's going to be bad. This team is still going to have to throw a lot in games. With their offensive line as bad as it is too, I don't think the run game is necessarily going to be there. And Mike McCarthy doesn't like to use their run game as it is. If you look at his historical stats, even back to the Green Bay Packer days, he just throws and throws and throws. I had the number last year. I think it was like an average of like 505 times a year that he throws the ball compared to with somebody running. So
yeah, as a person that lives in Wisconsin, so I've been around McCarthy often. He doesn't know run game to save his life. He never has. Like he had that like 1 year with Eddie Lacy before he got 700 pounds. And that was about the extent of what he's ever done run game wise.
Yeah, I still think Dak we could see him flirt with 5,000 yards this year if that defense is just as bad as it was last year.
Yeah, I think maybe even the threshold could be even like for the high end could be even 5,500 yards with that extra game in this year.
Oh man, I keep forgetting about that. Yeah, that definitely could be a possibility. It's
going to be crazy. Like there's going to be, when people talk about 1,000-yard wide receivers, it's going to be like, who isn't? Like there's probably going to be like 15 people now instead of like 8.
Lamar just went off. All right. I mean, I'd still probably I would take Lamar over Prescott. I just don't see it. I don't see Dak as that guy that's going to continue doing that. Like, he's one of those guys where I see him as he gets his 1 year, fails for a couple more years, gets another year, fails.
What's going to be great is if when he comes in and he picks up right where he left off and is throwing for 500 yards a game again.
I doubt it.
Hey, you know what? You risk some, and plus, Dak Prescott. Like as of right now, even if I wasn't to hold on to him, the value on him, I think, like you could get back for him is like so high. I couldn't tell you exactly. I traded him in a dynasty league before, and I think I got 3 firsts in return for him. So like, if you can get that for him, go ahead and do that.
Was Jordan in that league?
No, I wouldn't take advantage of Jordan like that.
In my league last offseason, he went for the equivalent of, I think, like 4 firsts and like a handful of other second and thirds, which I thought was insane because he got him for the price of Kirk Cousins in a first. So it was a nice little flip.
Speaking of Jordan, that's actually whose team I took over in the Dynasty League. It was definitely in tatters.
See, I took over one of Jordan's teams that was doing solid, but it wasn't me. So I literally ended up, by the draft, I already had like a horrible running back core, even though I started with Derrick Henry and Zeke. But in return, I ended up fixing the quarterback situation that was there, and I traded away the people that I didn't like. And I mean, I ended up with Herbert on my team now, and the Dynasty is beautiful. Not to mention, I believe that's the league where I ended up with the first, second, and third pick in the rookie draft. So,
well, I'm at an interesting spot here. I was surprised DeAndre Swift kind of fell all the way here. I think without the pass catchers and really amounting to anything in Detroit right now, he's got great upside.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that worries me with Swift at all is the fact that Gurley went there and did a physical and stuff, which means, like, don't get me wrong, Gurley's not what he used to be, but he can still cut into anyone's carries.
Mm-hmm.
To me, I'm not at all worried about if Gurley signed. I think I shared this sentiment with David before. I wouldn't be at all really worried if, Gurley comes in. Right now they have Jamal Williams. The one thing that scares me there is the goal line touches. And I don't, with the limited amount that this team's going to see, I just don't know, if there's going to be a lot of opportunity for Swift to, fall into the end zone.
Well, and that's really what that's what Gurley was used for, for the most of last year. He was just touchdowns were most of his production. So not to mention they don't have to worry about any of the pass catchers in Detroit. They can all just focus up other than maybe Hawkinson, they can focus up on the line, and that team is definitely in a rebuild, in my opinion.
Yeah. I got to say, though, that David just got what I assume is probably going to be one of the steals of this draft with DK Metcalf, getting him all the way in the third. That just shows you right here that so many running backs have gone that DK dropped all the way to the third.
Yes. Top 5 upside. Let's hope no Julio Jones trade happens to Seattle for his sake.
I doubt it'll go to Seattle.
It sounds like mostly. Sounds like mostly the Ravens, the Patriots. I don't really know who else is more or less involved, but it sounds like those teams. Maybe the Raiders.
The Raiders
that floated around.
What I've seen was the Raiders and Niners were in the lead.
Yeah, the Niners too.
Betting wise,
I see the Ravens.
Julio straight up said he didn't want to go to the Ravens. He said he doesn't want to watch Lamar run around for 3 hours.
Well, one of the things, but he's not going to decide. It's not like he has a no trade clause in his contract to say, I'm not going there either.
Everyone has a decision now that Antonio Brown made his own decision.
So, I think if I heard the thing with the Ravens today, maybe Gus Edwards could be on the, with part of that trade package to go to Atlanta, which would be interesting. So I've already bought Gus Edwards low key in a couple places, and throughout my dynasties, I've been getting him for a low end second or early third round pick, or even next year's second or third round. Either way, he provides a safe floor, and he's a good fill-in player for you.
I'd say send him to Jacksonville. Let's get an experienced, leader on the sideline for Trevor Lawrence. They have some skill wide receivers there that are young. You get Julio Jones in there schooling them youngins, then that now suddenly it's a dangerous offense, in my opinion.
They got weapons everywhere.
It's already dangerous now.
I would still love for the
board,
Packers to be able to pull off that trade somehow, but I don't know how they'd be able to work on it salary cap wise.
Packers can't do any. Not to mention, not only can they not manage to move that salary cap around enough, the Packers never pay. They pay like 2 people and then they leave it at that. And like the whole with Rodgers and Clay Matthews, they end up having to cut a whole bunch of people because they wanted to pay these 2 guys only, and then the defense fell apart there. Oh, you should have left that. Then I could put full screen.
Sorry, my bad.
Beautiful.
Yeah, one of the things about the Packers and their draft, or I mean, like them getting Julio is like the salary cap wise is that, you know, in order to bring that on, they need Rodgers to be able to work with Rodgers and his contract to be able to like turn that into a roster bonus somehow and to be able to bring in the salary like that. So basically Rodgers is the one holding everything up for Green Bay right now to be able to do anything.
Oh man. It's like a LeBron situation with the Cavs.
David, I just want you to know, David Genus, I'm looking at you right now. And you know what you did. Why you gotta take Jacobs? Why you gotta take my boy?
You know, I thought about because I really do. I don't like generally taking a tight end early unless it's Kelsey, but I love having a plug and play, like, you know, every week except for his bye week kind of tight end. It's just it makes at least one position so simple for me. So I did consider a swiping Pitts because I know how much you like him, but I figured I'd leave that. I knew that other guy was
that you were going to take was a hit at me. All right, fair enough.
Oh yeah.
See, here I'm in a super tough spot because I want to grab a running back, but I think I got to make sure that I get my nice solid 3 wideouts with Devontae Adams and DeAndre Hopkins.
That's going to be a tough core to beat.
Right. Well, you got Tyreek Hill, Adams, and Hopkins. Like, it's one of those things where you're like, I need this position, but it's too hard to pass up these guys. Like, I get Hopkins is up there in age. Like, none of my guys are super, super young. But, I mean, the talent is still going to be there for a couple years. And, I mean, later on in the draft, I can grab some young wideouts that could pan out. And if they don't, then next year I can draft some, so forth like that.
I really have hated people saying so lately, you know, Hopkins is up there in age and all that. And I'm sitting here on my couch like, man, I remember being an adult feeling like I had my dad gut going when Hopkins got into the league. What do you mean he's old?
And that's the thing is it's like I always laugh explaining it to people that don't really know football because you're like that dude's old and they're like, dude, he's 30. And it's like for a wideout that's old. Like, you know, you lose that speed unless you're Jerry Rice. Because Jerry Rice, I'm pretty sure, could jump in the league right now and be like a top 10 wideout, if not top 5. Brandon's got a real young team and solid with Kamara, Gibson, Pitts, and Lamb.
He's going to probably have to go really young with
Raiders now? You just trash talked the Raiders. Now you're just going to stack them?
Well, listen, they have a few talented people down there, all right? In fact, I have all of them on my roster right now.
Wow.
You're trying to be like me in our other dynasty, huh? I got Ruggs, I got Jacobs. I gotta get Waller.
All right. Yeah, but is that the one? I think I have Waller, so good luck on that.
I do have Jacobs. Just saying, are we gonna make a
right? And I mean, you do have a chance because I do have Pitts. So.
I'm expecting to see a run on wide receivers right here, but
you would think
we'll see.
Which of the once in a lifetime draft the big people here, Trevor Lawrence as the best quarterback to come out in a while, and Kyle Pitts is the highest ever tight end. Which one do you think has a better chance of falling or failing at that high lofty expectation? I know your opinion, Knacker.
Let's hear it.
I'm going Lawrence. Lawrence is going to be the one that falls on his face, I think. And I've said it multiple times. He's got his confidence so far up because of not losing often. Like he never lost a regular season game. And I think once he gets that first loss, that confidence goes out the window. And if you don't have that confidence, you start losing that as a quarterback, because you got to be a leader as a quarterback.
I'm still bullish on Trevor Lawrence, but I would pick him too, just solely because of Urban Meyer. So I think he could end up being, really good. I mean, we've seen Cliff Kingsbury make the transition and put out a good offense, but I don't know. He could also just bolt, like he normally does.
And we've seen, Urban Meyer, he's a great college football coach, and then his players make the NFL and they just flop on their face. So, maybe he's just not capable of that next level coaching.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this is where I guess the dynasty aspect of this draft comes into play, because I think this value is too good to pass up right now. Going with Deshaun Watson. Who knows where he'll end up, but at some point, hopefully he'll be better than where he's at right now with the Texans.
Well, and didn't they just come out saying that no matter what, he won't be suspended until next year if he gets suspended. Mm-hmm. So no matter what you got this year, he's going to do everything he can to make sure teams want him if he still wants this trade to happen. So he's going to do everything he can to beast mode this year. Yes, given he lost Fuller, he still has Brandon Cooks there. They drafted who? They get Nico.
Yeah, Nico.
Yeah, Nico Collins.
So I mean, they still have people there that he can throw to. Fuller, yes, Deshaun Watson's gonna miss his deep ball guy, but I mean, other than that, he should be all right.
Yeah, I hope he can still force his way out at some point. I know that Rich Eisen has been saying that he expects there to be a settlement sometime this summer and for him to serve like a 6 to 8 game suspension. So I'm kind of making a risky bet here that he would be back for the second half of the season somewhere.
Right.
Does anybody else find it suspicious that, he said Deshaun goes, "Hey, I want to leave," and suddenly a little black book flops out of, "Hey, he touched me, right after he's, wanting to get out.
I wonder how many millions the Texans forked over. I guess you have to stay now. State's requiring it. Drafting Watson really sends a message of confidence.
Not message. He said massage.
Oh, fair enough.
So who do you think is more likely to be traded between him or Aaron Rodgers?
Rodgers. I think Rodgers is, just because of the fact that, like, Watson said that he wanted to leave, yes. But Rodgers straight up said, I'm done with the GM, basically. And with Rodgers' age and the fact that they already drafted a quarterback, I think that it's more likely that they're going to try to do everything they can to get rid of him while he still has the value.
Mm-hmm. Oh, he corrected himself. He said message. No, just leave it the first way.
He did it on purpose.
Oh yeah, he's the king of dad jokes. He definitely did it on purpose.
Okay.
See, they have Godwin here as the next person off the board, but Godwin last year, literally every single time I put him in, he got me like 2 points, and if I sat him, he got like 25 points. So I just can't go in that direction. I'm gonna vote for Dak and him helping everybody there.
Hey, there we go. That's a great pick at this spot.
I still like CD better. I mean, the guy he's very talented, but
Right.
And didn't Cooper used to be a Raider too?
Yeah, but he had Dez's hands. As soon as he went to the Cowboys, all of a sudden he can catch now. And, like, I don't want to hear that it was Derek Carr's fault because I watched so many plays where it went straight into Cooper's hands, and he was like, yeah, where'd it go? Tossing it up to the defenders and shit.
So are you a Derek Carr defender?
Oh, yeah. I feel like Derek Carr and John Gruden have that father-son relationship where every year Derek Carr does better, and he's like, am I good enough now, Dad? And Gruden's like, you know what? Still going to possibly trade you.
Yeah.
And then the next year he does it again and he does a little bit better. And he's like, how about now? And Gruden's like, I don't know. There's some older guys I like. See, here's where it gets a little sketchy. I am going to take James Robinson just because with them talking about using NTN as a wideout in camp, I think Robinson is still going to be there and he's still going to run.
He'll still get carries, man.
Right. And I hate doing this. But I'm going to take Kareem Hunt. Then I've got Chubb and Hunt. I mean, that's what I hate doing is having both of them, and especially when there's a good chance that I'm going to have to start both of them at some point. But at the same time, Kareem Hunt's got the talent. Mm-hmm. And as a dynasty, you also got to think that there's a chance that he's going to go somewhere else. And if he goes somewhere else, he's a starter on a good, solid amount of teams, which immediately makes that value jump up because then you've got two starters from two different teams rather than two guys on a committee.
Okay, but which of those running backs and wide receivers do you have throwing your touchdowns?
Kareem Hunt's going to kick the field goals. It's all right. It's all right. I'm not the only one that doesn't have a quarterback yet.
That's true. That's true.
I have like half a quarterback right now.
2 quarterbacks.
I'll wait till the end. I don't care. I'll go last 2 picks and just slam quarterbacks.
Sam
We'll leave
Darnold and
Derek
Drew
Carr
Lock
there for you.
I'm going to start Trask right off the bat.
Yeah, so I went Brandon Ayuk there at 5'11", and then I followed that up with Mike Evans. But I don't feel like Ayuk, he's somebody that gets enough love, among anybody. I feel like if you could get him for a low first, I would do that.
Right, and honestly, I love the Mike Evans pick. Like, if I didn't already have, 3 solid wideouts, I would have ended up taking Evans. I do feel like so many people love Godwin and stuff and keep him up here, but Evans is the more consistent one to me. It's kind of like the old like Demaryius Thomas with Emmanuel Sanders, or back when Roddy White was there and Julio Jones. Julio Jones was going to get you, 40 points one game, 8 points the next, while Roddy was going to get you 20 each and every week.
See, I like the Evans pick better, and I do like him more than Godwin. I don't like Ayuk, and that's mainly because I stay away from all San Francisco. In my opinion, until they learn how to keep their players on the field and out of the injury tent, I avoid San Fran with all haste. It has to be great value for me to be picking San Fran players.
I like Ayuk. I like Debo. The problem that they've had, in my opinion, is Garoppolo. But now that they've got Trey Lance, that might change everything. And I understand with the injuries, but you got to think, last year was, again, a fluke year. It was the year of the injuries. Like, they had, 3 people go down in one game, all with the same thing on the same field? Like
all in one quarter, all in the second quarter, I think.
Right. And not even just, small name guys. It was Solomon Thomas and Bosa.
Nick Bosa.
Can't be having them go down right away. That immediately makes your defense half of what it was, if even less. Ooh, Zach's going young with them QBs, eh? I like it.
Very, very young.
I mean, I don't like the Fields one, but I like the Zach Wilson one.
I don't like either. Those are probably my two least favorite out of the top 5 picked.
Oh man, I love Wilson. In our dynasty, I picked Wilson before I took Trevor Lawrence.
Oh, I wouldn't do that. I like Wilson. I like his talent. I don't like the Jets. I mean, until the next Namath comes out there, they haven't had anybody. They don't know how to coach quarterbacks up there. It's just a bad place to end up. And with Fields, he's from Ohio State. That's already a knock on him. Then he's going to the Bears. There's another knock. They haven't had a good quarterback.
Say it. Say your comment last week. Say it.
That was my comment last week, and I wasn't even on here. That was just in the thing, but it's the same. It's going to be the same.
Quarterbacks go to die.
Yes, absolutely.
The fact that Matt Nagy and Ryan Pace are still there, being able to take a second rookie quarterback that high, I don't know, man. I just got these bad vibes about it.
And when do you think they start him?
I think it will be earlier than expected.
Well, it has to be. They have their careers. They're staying in Chicago and having a job is going to rely on Fields going off and having a great year.
Oh yeah. And I mean, the only other team that's really like been worse recently in drafting quarterbacks is John Elway, which I still don't understand how John Elway, one of the great quarterbacks, literally can't pick a quarterback.
I brought up that same point before you got in here when he first said he was a Broncos fan. I was like, you would feel like that was his forte, the one position that would be solid.
Right. You would think that you would think that his defense would be failing because he's like, no, we need great quarterbacks. But he's like, I'm going to take these mediocre quarterbacks and then wonder why they fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just really glad that somehow George Payton decided that he wanted to come over here. So I'm not expecting him to fix everything overnight, but we'll see.
Well, it's like one thing that I used to flip out about was the fact that we got Jack Del Rio, and he did phenomenal. Built our team back. We were going to the playoffs, and then he failed 1 year, and they're like, nope, we got Gruden. And it's like, why? Like, at least try to get Del Rio to sign as like our defensive coordinator then or something. Which I believe he's in Washington now.
Yeah.
Who's better for Dynasty, Nick Foles or Andy Dalton?
I'm going with the Red Rifle.
I'd say Foles too.
Especially because you just got to hope that at some point, like Jalen Hurts gets injured, the Eagles trade for Foles, Foles gets back to the Eagles, does good again. Because he's the one guy that he tends to go to the Eagles, does phenomenal, gets traded, gets his money, fails miserably, gets traded back to the Eagles, does good again. Like, seems like that's the only place Foles can do good.
All right, here's a question. I've been watching the card values, getting into the breaks and all that lately, and some of them have me real confused. Now I understand Herbert and Burrow; those two were all-stars last year, but the next row of quarterbacks has me confused. Love, Hurts, and Tua. None of them were super impressive. Love didn't even get on the field. I don't know if he even will this year. Which of them do you think is going to step up to that next level and join that top tier, if any of them?
Hurts, hands down. Hurts did great last year once he started playing.
I don't know if he did great. He did better than Wentz, but most people could have done that last year. I could have gone out there and outperformed Wentz.
I mean, Hurts was throwing up good numbers those last couple of years. Or last couple games, I mean. Last couple of years. The last couple of games, Hurts was throwing up pretty good numbers. Like, that's the only reason that I ended up doing good in DraftKings was because I drafted him, and he popped up into my starting lineup and started killing it for me. I don't.
Buddy.
Huh?
You just sniped my next quarterback. I thought he would last to the next round. Tannehill. I mean, everybody craps on him, but he's been great ever since he's been to Tennessee. He was definitely my next person.
I was thinking about Stafford as well as Baker, but I just don't. They play in tough divisions. I feel like the AFC South is a little bit, it's a little bit easier. Shoot. Yeah, this is tough. I think I'm just going to go with who I think the best wide receiver is at this point.
Yeah, I mean, that's a solid pick at that point. Everywhere that I've seen, he's going around the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I am a little concerned that we could see something with Jalen Hurts kind of, with what happened with Drew Lock this past year, where there's a small sample size and doesn't necessarily live up to expectation. They don't have a lot invested in him. But
are you trying to compare Hurts to Drew Lock?
in some ways, because they're both second-round picks. But I mean, just those rumors about the Eagles trying to move up for Zach Wilson, it just doesn't. I'm just not sure what their commitment level is to Hurts, if he even has. He could have an above-average fantasy season, but just an average season of real-life quarterback play. I don't really know.
We've seen that before with Jameis Winston too, where he was a top-end fantasy play, but in real life he was a shitty quarterback.
But this year he'll be comeback player of the year, so we don't have to worry
We've seen
about
the
that.
opposite though too. Look at Tom Brady his whole career. He's been a terrible fantasy player, but the man's the GOAT. He's a great football player, but in fantasy he don't do anything.
Well, and when you're talking about how with the Eagles possibly trading up for Zach Wilson, I mean, we heard it years ago where Gruden was going to try to trade up to get Kyler Murray, and that never happened. So you can see that the commitment is still there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I remember when they kept talking about that, and I was like, if we trade up to 1 and you take Kyler, you're dumb. We need Bosa if we're going up that high.
Man, I really did want to see the Raiders make a move, even as a Broncos fan, to get a quarterback like that, because I would love to see what John Gruden does with somebody that dynamic, but we'll have to wait another year, I guess.
Well, and as a Broncos fan, who do you think is going to start? You think it's going to be Drew Lock, or you think it's going to be Teddy B?
I think it will be Drew Lock out of the gate. I think it will just, the big question is will he be able to hold on to it? And I think as long as they're winning, they will. But again, will they win? I mean, the beginning of the schedule, from what I remember, it's not that bad. So I think we could, even if we're 2-2, I think you would still see Lock start. But I guess it's kind of depending on how we're losing those games too. If he's still throwing,
right,
interceptions crazy every game.
That's another big thing too. Is like you said about Stafford in that division and stuff. We're not in a very easy division either. I mean, you've got Kansas City Chiefs, the Chargers, Raiders, and Broncos. I mean, literally, you don't have you've got 2 teams with the top 4, top 3 quarterbacks.
And defenses are good too.
Exactly, and that's the one thing is last year we almost ended up with 3 of our teams ending up in the playoffs.
You mean the AFC North?
Right.
You mean like that?
What are you gonna do next year when Roethlisberger's gone though?
What do you mean?
Mason Rudolph?
We have I Love the Strip Club Haskins ready to go. He's devoted now.
In Genius's mind, he's sitting there going, "Please God, don't make us start Haskins."
My last pick here is actually my probably favorite player for comeback player of the year, Carson Wentz. I mean, I feel like just the system kind of broke down around him. He didn't really have a team last year, and now he's going to Indianapolis, where arguably that's one of the best, most complete rosters in the league. Some young wide receivers. Jonathan Taylor in the back, a decent offensive line, and a beast of a defense. So,
I mean, this is going to be the year that if Wentz don't do it this year, I think it's time to give up on him. But I mean, I'm not as high as a lot of people are on Wentz this year, just because he's let me down so many times. But I do agree that going to this team that's already got solid things. I mean, look at your wideouts. You've got Pittman. You've got T.Y. And like you said, Jonathan Taylor in the backfield. This is the team that literally, if he can't make it work, he's not gonna start anymore. Unless there's a lot of injuries that go down.
I have a question. Do you guys, how do you guys value T.Y. Hilton right now? I have him on one of my rosters in one of my leagues, and it seems like no one's even interested in him at a 3rd-round pick level.
Oh yeah, literally, I've been drafting T.Y. in the mock drafts. I've been getting him in the last round, I literally picked him as my sleeper, or one of my sleepers this year, because of the fact that we know that T.Y. has talent. It's not like he's just some scrub. And now if Wentz does do something, immediately that means that, you've got that thing. You've got the guy that can bring T.Y. back.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but you also, especially in Dynasty, you have to think about the fact that in wide receiver, age, just like we were talking about earlier, T.Y. is a dinosaur. Like he's not somebody you're going to be starting for the next several years. So him going in the later rounds makes complete sense to me. I wouldn't.
Right,
I wouldn't trade a draft pick for him.
I get going in the later rounds, but I'm talking that he's either going to me in the last round or he's not getting drafted most of the time, which there's a lot of players near that end of the draft that if they're getting taken before T.Y., people don't remember T.Y.
That's crazy. I still think for this year, I would still think he's the most reliable receiver the Colts have right now.
If I had T.Y., if I had T.Y., I'm not getting rid of T.Y. because, as you said before, a third-round pick, if you're not going to get, even a third-round pick for him, why trade him? You might as well keep him because at least he's going to get you productive weeks. And we've seen him explode in weeks too, and he's going to have a couple of those games through the season no matter what because of his speed.
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to get the old Patriot quarterback and then the new Patriot quarterback. So I went with Brady and then Mac Jones.
Mac Jones is actually my second favorite from this draft. I love Mac Jones. I think that, everybody disses him because, you had this great team around you, but that doesn't take away from the talent he had to take them to that level.
Right. Not to mention any quarterback that goes to Belichick, I like more than he was before. Right. I hate Cam Newton with a passion, but I like him more now than I did last time.
So we know that Mac Jones, he's not going to be like the most mobile quarterback kind of guy, like a lot of these hybrid quarterbacks are that are coming in the league, which is starting to overcome the league pretty much, and that's pretty much what most quarterbacks coming in the league that get drafted are. Mac Jones is kind of that, different breed, but I think his ceiling is absolutely like a Matt Ryan type player. I think he could come into the league and, be comparable to that.
Well, and there is still some quarterbacks in the league that aren't very mobile. Ben Roethlisberger, he's not super mobile, but he's putting up solid numbers most years.
Well, that's because you can't take him down. He's a linebacker. He's not a quarterback. Right. He just throws off people.
They're looking over. Is it Derrick Henry back there? What is he doing?
Yeah.
Like how many times have we seen, quarterbacks that haven't been that mobile, like a Tom Brady, Drew Brees, they live in that 7 to 10 yard throw range and just, they can eat there. So, I don't think there's any I don't know. He doesn't have that rushing floor, but, at the same time, there are quarterbacks that thrive without one.
I agree.
Well, yeah, Peyton Manning, that guy couldn't run anywhere, but, he was throwing 400, 500-yard game. He was a beast. Peyton Manning might be one of my favorite quarterbacks of all time. Not to mention I love his commercials.
He's not my favorite quarterback.
Peyton Manning, to use like a WWE reference here, is like, Triple H. I considered him like the cerebral assassin of the league at the time when he was playing.
I will stand by that. I hate Peyton Manning. That dude came to the Broncos. There was no reason to come to my division and just ruin everything. We were doing solid, and then you showed up and just ruined it.
All right. Well, since I have some younger wide receivers, I feel okay about doing this. Picking Adam Thielen right here. And then another guy I really like for this year with Ryan Fitzpatrick, now in Washington, going to air it out. I really like Curtis Samuel. I think he's got some good upside this year too. So we'll see.
Now let me ask you this. I got a bet, all right, with someone. Who do you think finishes higher, Terry McLaurin or DK Metcalf?
Sorry, was that an actual question? Was that a serious question?
That me and Dwight are betting. Because he thinks that McLaurin will beat out DK Metcalf. And I was like, absolutely not, dude. I don't care how hard that division is. He's still going to win.
I don't understand why McLaurin is kind of thrown around there with DK and AJ Brown. I just think that both of those players are a tier above.
I mean, I understand it though, because think about, I mean, the level of quarterback that he's had throwing to him, and he's still been a decent. So maybe with a better quarterback, but I don't. They haven't gotten a great quarterback yet. Anyway, I mean, yeah, they have Fitzpatrick up there, but that's. I mean,
he is phenomenal. All right,
sometimes he is.
It's gonna be great for like the first 4 weeks. So. What I'm gonna suggest is if you have McLaurin and like you're playing and Fitzpatrick's still starting, once you start hearing the rumors of Fitzpatrick gonna get benched or anything like that, that's the time you need to trade McLaurin.
Oh yeah.
Well, and like the big thing that Dwight had said was, with Fitzmagic there, and I was like, I get it. I was like, but that doesn't make you just become, this phenomenal. I was like, otherwise, you got to say that Josh Gordon is the GOAT of wideouts, because that dude played phenomenal with Brandon Weeden throwing to him. So if you're going to say that just switching to Fitzmagic is going to make McLaurin better than DK Metcalf, yeah.
Okay, but that's possible. Realistically, Josh Gordon was a fantastic wideout with crappy, and if he could stay off the drugs, we don't know what he could have done. For all we know, he was the next Jerry Rice, and he just can't, get off his fix and fix himself, because he was great.
Don't get me wrong. I love Josh Gordon. I was that dude that drafted him every single year and got fucked over after his 1 or 2 games.
I definitely was as well.
And that was one of those dudes that canceled for that Josh Gordon tape. But that was one of those things where that dude never had a great quarterback until he went to the Patriots. And he played, 3 games and then ended up in trouble again? So when he finally got a good quarterback, he still got in trouble again. And, like, that dude had Julio Jones level skill when he was playing. And just wasted it by getting in trouble constantly. Like I get it. You want to smoke a little. But, like, you're getting paid millions to not.
I've never understood that by any means for any of the pros who get in trouble for that kind of stuff. Like, I understand it in those sponge years. It's great and all that. But then if somebody's paying me millions not to, I'm not doing it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll take his job any day of the week if he wants it. Here's another quarterback, I think, with all the weapons that they brought to him, is going to have a much better year. And if he doesn't, he's just like Wentz. He's going to be, he ain't going to be a starter.
Motherfucker Jones. I don't know if you ever seen that, but Joey used to always call him Motherfucker Jones. They literally, even on the TSF website, there was the jersey, the Motherfucker Jones.
Nobody's picked up Joey's favorite player. The fifth best tight end in the league, Goddard.
No, Joey said that he was better than Waller last year, remember?
That's blasphemy. But
and then immediately the next week after Joey said it, immediately Waller drops that 50-point game. Well, that's another hat bet I got. Me and him have a hat bet for this year that Waller will outperform Goddard.
I'll take Waller on that one.
Yeah, I'll take Waller.
Me and Travis just picked up another hat bet against Joey this time with Pitts beating out Hawkinson.
Hey,
I have those two ranked 4th and 5th in my opinion of tight ends. So
yeah, thanks. I think he can win the starting job. I think they drafted him last year to be the starter, and he was kind of coming on before the injury last year.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in Zack Moss. I think he's a better back than Devin Singletary. So I think he's a great value here in the end of the 9th round.
I think it's still a committee though. Neither one of those are a Derrick Henry takeover type. It's still going to be split and until one of them shows that they can go above and beyond the other one.
I have to pick him at this point. If I'm going to get Mostert in the 9th round at the end, deal. Like, don't get me wrong, I hate San Fran running backs because of that committee. It's just like Patriot running backs. I hate that committee. But like Mostert is obviously the starter at this point. Like, yes, he might not be halfway through the year.
I think they have like 15 starting running backs there. Like every time I look over, they got a stable of starting running backs that if they went somewhere else, they'd at least be in contention for the starting role.
Right.
But again, Shanahan knows what he's doing with running backs. He plugged in, a new one every time one of them got hurt last year, and that one went off and had himself a great game. So as long as you know which one is going to be playing that week, I guess that's a good pick.
Right. And then I'm going to go ahead and take who left David's team, James Conner. I do see him as still he's the number one running back there right now. As simple as that. Don't get me wrong, there's people that might be able to take over his job. But as of right now, he's definitely the number one there.
So we don't think Edmonds is the number one there?
Absolutely not.
Oh, come on. I think Edmonds is just fine. He should have been the starter last year for Arizona.
Absolutely not. I argued this last year that Kenyon Drake is still better than Edmonds.
Kenyon Drake is garbage. I wouldn't pick him up if you paid me to.
Good. I'll take him. My Raiders did take him, all right? He might not be alive come Sunday. As a matter of fact, nobody on the San Fran roster is guaranteed to be alive tomorrow.
That's true. I said it earlier. They can't keep him healthy there. I'll stay away from San Fran unless I'm getting. If I get Ayuk in the 14th, I'll take it. But beyond that, I ain't taking anybody over there.
I'll never draft Kenyon Drake again.
I want to know what your guys' expectations are for the Ravens offense this year.
They're going to run the ball.
Do you still see them being dead last in pass attempts this year?
Absolutely.
I don't think so. I mean, there's always pass attempts maybe. But like completions, Drew Lock's going to be beating that. Hey, I've got a Broncos fan on here. I got to trash him, all right? I got to have my fun.
It's well-deserved.
I still think the Ravens are a run. I mean, not even just – they're run first, second, and third. They're just not a passing team. I don't think they did enough, even in the draft, to transfer over to a half-and-half team even. They're going to run the ball. It's what they're good at. Dobbins.
If there's passing, it's going to be passing to Dobbins a lot.
Right.
Jesus, Zach, let some of the quarterbacks go.
How many does he have now? 4?
4. He's going to
because he probably heard her.
Well, he's got the quarterbacks the young quarterbacks he can bench early for the quarterbacks he can bench.
I mean, I don't hate how he's doing this because he did solidify his running backs first. Mm-hmm. With JT, Zeke, and Eckler, I think he's solid there. I mean, Eckler, I think, is one of those dudes that people are sleeping on but don't remember the fact that he did phenomenal when he played. Mm-hmm. I mean, Ridley, OBJ, and Juju, those are two guys that literally they were great at one point. Are they going to be this year? You never know, but they could be because that they have the talent. It's just a matter of if they're going to be able to bring it up. Mm-hmm.
I mean, his whole wide receiver core, like you said with OBJ and Juju, they're a toss up. But in my opinion, so is Ridley. Especially if they get rid of Julio, he kind of reminds me of going the way of Juju when they got rid of AB. He kind of fell off without AB over there attracting that attention. Who's going to attract it? I mean, I know you'll say Pitts is going to attract the attention, so Ridley could get open, but
I mean that's the only one really that's going to attract the attention because Russell Gage, that's not going to do anything. No one's worried about Russell Gage. But like Ridley, it's a 50-50 chance he does that. In my opinion, like there's a good chance he can continue, but there's also a really good chance that he can be the Juju and just like. Yeah, I was amazing last year. And it's like, yeah, but what are you doing now?
Right.
my friend Eric commented, Julio on the 7th day. Man's going to feast on the Titans. He's a big Titans fan. He's a guy from my home league as well.
I don't see him going Titans.
I did read an article that said that the Titans were a long shot, but I do think that would also, that would skyrocket that offense. They do need another wideout, and Julio there. I mean, it would have the same effect as him with the Jags, except for with, a better, more established offense there.
I think anywhere Julio goes, he's going to succeed. I mean, yes, he gets his injuries, but the man gets his points. There's not many teams. Like, there was talk about him going to the Cardinals. That's the only team that does not need a wide receiver. I mean, I get it. AJ Green plays one game every 5 years, but I have a feeling that it was just he didn't want to be a Bengal. Like, he's going to if he gets through this year with no turf toe, we know he was lying all those other years. I'm pretty sure he's got more. He's had more time off on turf toe than the entire rest of the league.
All right, now for Juju sticking around in Pittsburgh despite getting offers for more money elsewhere, do you think he looked at AB and Le'Veon Bell and said, "Look what happened when they left Pittsburgh. I'm just going to stay right here where I'm at, where I'm doing okay, before I go and ruin my career elsewhere"? Or was it just a I love Pittsburgh, I'm going to stay faithful, one team my whole career type thing? Because I think AB was, he might have been, if he had stayed with us, one of the best wide receivers of all time. Julio, he's a physical beast. He's huge. AB's 2 inches taller than me. That man was just balling out. And then he went elsewhere, and, he's down, the third wide receiver on that roster, if that?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is that Vontaze Burfict hit. Ever since that Vontaze Burfict hit, that dude has not been the same up here.
He is the Steeler killer. That's the fiance over here in the comments laughing. She's a Bengals fan.
But at the same time, you got Vontaze Burfict was a Steeler killer, but at the same time, you had Juju out there killing Vontaze.
He needed it. Somebody had to put him in his place. Although the same thing happened to Juju this last year with Cincinnati. With Cincinnati, he got leveled.
So one of the things, too, was kind of the salary cap situation. That's why Juju didn't really go anywhere else. I guess there was an offer from the Chiefs, Ravens. There was one multi-year deal, I think, from the Eagles. There was he didn't accept any of those offers. The Eagles probably wouldn't have been a great situation for him to walk into, because that definitely would probably kill his career. The Chiefs, I don't know, just taking the less money and staying in Pittsburgh, I feel like it's a long-term play with the salary cap probably bumping up after they get fans back in the stadium next year, and maybe he can cash out with Pittsburgh, especially if Roethlisberger was to go. They would probably be looking more to retain Juju in Pittsburgh next year and give him kind of a long-term deal, maybe like a 4-year deal, because obviously he's still a really young player, and he's still going to be fantasy relevant for multiple years to come.
I did look at the over the cap for next year, and I'm pretty sure at the time it says Pittsburgh's supposed to be one of the top, if not the top team with cap space. So if he can ball out this year, he could definitely get a contract, on par with some of the top wide receivers. He'd have to really ball out. But
what quarterbacks are free agents next year?
I can take a look.
Trying to think off the top of my head. Is this Matt Ryan's last year, or is he signed?
No, Matt Ryan's got 2 more years left.
2 more years.
Yeah, I don't know who else would. I know Rudolph. I think they re-upped him, and they gave him next year as well. I don't.
Really? Okay.
I don't think it was like a big deal or anything like that. I think it was like $10 million a year deal or something.
Let's see here. We've got position quarterback.
Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston are probably both free agents.
Oh, that's right. Jameis Winston.
You've got Roethlisberger, Taysom, Teddy B, Fitzmagic, Andy Dalton, Nick Foles, Tyrod Taylor, Jameis Winston, Cam Newton, Mariota. So basically trash.
Another man's trash, or one man's trash is another man's treasure. Jameis Winston.
Well,
QB1.
Big Ben's off he's done, in my opinion, after this.
He's a retired.
I don't know about trash. I mean, those Super Bowl rings that are going with him, they're pretty shiny.
Roethlisberger's fine.
Do you feel like Winston would do well though in a Pittsburgh Steelers type offense?
Absolutely, if he can learn to throw it to his own players.
Well,
that's his biggest downside. Yeah, he might have been one of the top fantasy. He might have been the top fantasy quarterback that year if he hadn't thrown so many interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they figured that he was going to do good in New Orleans, because he was already practicing throwing to Saints players.
I mean, but what targets did he actually have there in New Orleans? They got Michael Thomas. That's it. When he went down, that offense.
Who caught the AB? He caught the AB. All right.
But the Steelers, they have, so many plug and play wide receivers in there. They hit it every year with the mid round wide receivers. They're good at that. So he'd have plenty of targets there.
Oh yeah, and a new tight end, Freiermuth. I think he's going to be really solid.
I'm still not 100% sure why we picked him, in my opinion, with Ebron. I don't think he did bad last year. I think they were a little bit more focused on the receivers, but with a more balanced offense, I think Ebron would have been fine. I think they should have picked up a center in the second round there. But
I have a feeling that they went with him just to get that youth. Because, you guys have done pretty solid with your tight ends, and you usually end up getting them later on in their career. So I think they're just trying to get that youth on there to make sure that while Ebron's doing his thing, they have someone back up to make sure that they have their guy.
You wouldn't know Ebron's old have you ever watched him? Like, he's the most jovial, jokey guy on the entire team. The man's a riot.
Well, it's like Doyle. You never realize how old he is when he was playing because he was sitting there getting points. You have Jared Cook. Jared Cook's getting points, and that dude's like 105 years old.
Yeah, he's been playing since I was in diapers, I'm pretty sure.
he went to school with, Vinatieri. But, yeah, it's one of those things where I think they just wanted to get that youth.
Mm-hmm.
With my picks, I took Elijah Moore. I think he's going to beast, especially with Zach Wilson. And then this is my guy. I had to take Will Fuller. I love Will Fuller. He might not be the guy that's going to get you consistent points, but he'll get you, 7 receptions for 6 touchdowns and 350 yards.
I like the Will Fuller pick. I don't think I'd call anybody beast in the Jets just yet. Maybe next year when they've had a little bit of time to gel, but I wouldn't call any of the Jets a beast as of this year.
Gotcha.
I like Corey Davis a lot for this year.
I'm going to go ahead and pick up Freemuth for that use.
There we go.
I like Corey Davis a lot too. I thought that, he finally had a breakout year. But again, I just don't think any of the Jets this year are going to be I think that they're building for the future and that they could be a decent team, in the next 2 or 3 years. But I just don't see it happening this year. I'm more interested to see if the Patriots can come back. That's a big question. They've turned over that roster so much.
I know.
2 tight ends that are, if they could stay on the field, great. Like,
I was really hoping
running back, but
Henry Ruggs was going to fall to me, man. I feel like
I almost considered him on my spot.
But I'm not ready to fade him like some of the other fantasy community seems to already be doing, favoring him over Bryan Edwards. I still feel like the talent's still there for him to be very successful, and it was only his first year.
I think the big thing comes down to they need that consistent guy. Like if we would get Julio, because Ruggs is that guy they want to do the Will Fuller, the fly down that field, because you're not going to have someone that can catch him. Especially I think with John Brown being there too, you've got 2 fast guys. So if we could get the consistent guy, that would free it up.
Right, but you'd also have some of the most
have the speed on defense to keep up with both of them.
Right, but Julio Jones and John Brown were just going to be warming your bench with their injuries all year, like they have for the last several years. Like, I think maybe you guys
wasn't gone that much last year.
You guys need a quarterback.
Okay. Who's going to be your guys' number one wideout over there in Pittsburgh? Because every year it's someone new.
Listen, if Deontay figured out in the offseason how to stop dropping passes and stay on the field, it'll be him. I mean, he was hands down, he was Big Ben's favorite target. If he was in the game, he was getting at least 10 targets a game.
Don't get me wrong, I love Claypool, so
I do too. But he's more of the Hollywood Brown for our team, the deep threat with the big target. Right. Deontay was, I mean, there's no way that he was not Roethlisberger's favorite outlet. But again, with a running game now this year, who knows? It might change completely. Because before all last year he was just throwing right over the middle, short passes. Deontay, that was his bread and butter. So,
right.
You're gonna know within probably like the first game or even first quarter who Ben Roethlisberger's main target is going to be in this offense for the entire year, because like he locks into one guy and he's just there. We've seen it over and over. He had AB for the longest time, and then he had Juju and AB, which Juju was eating up the majority of the targets, and then you had Deontay, and could this be Claypool's year? That's kind of where I've been at. That's kind of why I wanted to see Juju leave, because I thought maybe this could be time for Claypool to step into that kind of role and take over the majority of the targets in the offense. I do feel like he brings a good red zone presence too, weekly.
Oh yeah, I was really hoping that the Raiders were going to get Juju when he was a free agent. I mean, I'm not mad with getting John Brown for $3 million, but yeah, I think Juju would have been a great addition. I mean, I think Juju would have been a great addition to a good chunk of teams, because I mean, I feel like he's the Eric Decker. He's not phenomenal as a number one, but he's good as a number two. So Gainwell dropped all the way to the 13th round. Only because he's an Eagle.
Man, I was really hoping he was going to be like a third-round pick or something like that, and it was disappointing to see him fall all the way to the fifth.
Right. I mean, every time I sit there and I'm like, yeah, I like to think that I'm going to know what the draft is going to do, but every time it's some complete random shit where all of a sudden you're like, wait, what just happened?
You mean like every time the Raiders make a pick?
No, I know that's going to be. I know it's going to be something shitty. I'm just surprised that this year they didn't go, you know what? We haven't picked a kicker in the first round in a while.
That would be an amazing thing. That would definitely surprise everybody. Nobody would call that.
But if he ended up as another Hall of Famer, would it be worth it?
I mean, I don't know.
That's the one thing that the Raiders. That's the one thing the Raiders have always pretty much had, is a solid kicker and a solid punter. Doesn't mean I'm happy about it. All right, so we're gonna get fun with this one.
Yeah,
with QBs there at the end, I got Fitzpatrick the round before, and I went Cam Newton that time. Right. Yeah, I'll take a couple of the old guys to stash away on my bench. Hell, maybe one of them could be even a trade target later on down the road.
Oh yeah. If Dak breaks his other ankle, you're covered.
I'm going to go ahead and take your safety net with Davis Mills.
I was totally picking him up last. It was 100%. That's where I was going. I mean, not my safety net, but I was going to put him with Nico Collins as the future of Houston.
And then I'm going to go ahead take Mr. Tim Tebow. Just took my tight end. Whoa!
Oh, they have him in there as a
quarterback and tight end, which means I could throw him in like Taysom Hill.
That definitely
can't believe that happened.
That definitely ruined some leagues last year. Some friendships were ruined over that.
Oh yeah, ruined so much.
All right, well, now I got to figure out who my last pick is here since you totally sniped me. You know what? I have so many cards of this guy. I'm just going to go ahead and say I have to hope he has a good year. Between him and Beauty.
I was sick for a second. We're good.
Let's go.
Gabriel Davis.
I like that pick this late.
Yeah, and I went Philip Lindsay, and I mean, honestly, between him and David Johnson, someone's probably going to be the lead back in the offense. But I'll go with the younger guy here. Maybe the talent will win out here. I've always been a big fan of David Johnson, but I mean, he'll be 30 years old this season. So I mean, how much production are we really going to see from this offense? You know, with the Watson situation, if Watson's playing, I could see both these guys kind of having some relevance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I lean more towards Johnson, but I also understand the Lindsay situation. Don't they also have another running back over there too for some reason?
That's what I was just looking up. It's Mark Ingram.
Yeah. So you literally have three guys that were starters, and honestly, it would not surprise me if Mark Ingram becomes the one that takes it. I mean, he's shown that it doesn't matter how old he is. He's pulling the Frank Gore at this point, all right? He's like, dude, I don't give a shit. I'm still gonna run this ball. What's up?
Nobody for the next several. I can't see anybody ever doing it again. Is going to do a Frank Gore. That man is. There's not in this day the running backs of this age.
And not to mention, he continues to be solid. Like it's not like he's playing and he's only gonna jump in for one play a game or something like that. No, he's still getting points that you can easily grab him. Like we could have grabbed him in the last round right now and still got points for him.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm gonna pick this guy here. I think he's being significantly slept on. I don't think the running back room is that great, and really his only competition is Michael Carter. But I think Ty Johnson has a shot.
Now with Frank Gore there, we just went over this. All right.
All right. So any.
All right. So here.
Okay, go ahead.
Jarrett Patterson. I was just one of my last picks, and I totally missed him. Was going to be well, now his name just flew right out of my head. Washington, they're catching running back, number 2 running back.
Oh, Jaden McKissick.
Yeah, I was totally going to pick him, but somebody picked up Jarrett Patterson ahead of him. Is there something I don't know about there? No,
he's third, maybe the fourth guy if they signed early. So I went.
He's just younger. Well, and one guy that I was debating on grabbing in the last round because I tend to do it every time now is Giovanni Bernard. Like I said, I don't have faith in Rojo, and I think Fournette is solid. But Tom Brady literally went out and recruited.
Early, they must.
You're cutting in and out.
I was going to say, he sounds like a robot suddenly.
Like I heard Gurley signing.
I didn't make that out even.
And I think he's frozen.
He's definitely moving like a robot.
Yeah.
My connection's slow too.
I still think Fournette is the best running back in Tampa Bay right now.
Oh yeah, I think he is too. But I think when Brady literally goes and recruits a running back, it shows you that he's got the faith. And Arian also went and recruited Gio, which means you've got 2 of the main guys there that have faith in you. And Gio is one of those guys. He never lost his job because he failed. He lost his job because the Bengals just kept drafting another running back. And then being like, all right, push you back. Jeremy Hill, you're starting the next year. All right, push you back. Mixon go in. Like no
Well,
one
and then
did
Gio
that.
would come in when that person inevitably got hurt after behind that terrible offensive line, and Gio would come in and tote it like it was
Kill it.
nothing.
Right, like he had never lost a step, like he had been playing constantly.
Right.
And so I feel like if Gio go, all right, Zach, settle down. Gio did not lose his job. Like he had the job. Settle down. But I just think that in the last round, taking Gio as a flyer could end up panning out beautifully. If it doesn't, you'll know within the first couple weeks, and you can get rid of him and pick up someone else. There's plenty of people that aren't drafted right now that you could end up scooping. Like if you're in like a real deep one, obviously keep Gio on your bench because you're not going to find anyone. All right, now that we got Travis back, what were you saying?
I have no idea. I don't
Something
even...
about early signing.
That's what he was saying.
Oh, is that what I was saying? No, it was something about that Jarrett Patterson. Him he'd be like the fourth guy on the depth chart, so I wouldn't be worried about him at all.
Don't they have another young one there who was supposed to start before they picked up Gibson and all that?
Bryce Love.
Yeah, and they cut him.
Yeah.
Oh, did they? He was supposed to be good, but he just couldn't stay healthy either.
I was thinking of guys too, and they cut him too.
Oh yeah, I forgot all about him.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, or all rape stuff and whatever else he had going on. I was actually friends with him on Twitter there for a little bit, and messaged with him a little bit before that all went down.
Well, I think the team I like the most, I can't see the full usernames, but whoever got Jonathan Taylor, Elliott, and Eckler, I think it was
That's Zach.
Yeah, I really liked his draft, actually, waiting a little bit on wide receiver, OBJ, Juju. Those are guys you can still start, and getting the quarterback depth that you really want to have in Dynasty. I really liked his draft.
Yeah, I liked his too. Again, I'm going to give it up to Brandon with Kamara, Gibson, Pitts, CD, Godwin, Higgins. I mean, even getting Matt Ryan, Darnold, Love, and Mund. I mean, you're going to be able to start Matt Ryan this year. Probably next year again. Darnold, he could end up being phenomenal in Carolina now. And then Jordan Love, grabbing him just to make sure in case Rodgers goes somewhere. And then Mund because, Kirk Cousins, how long is he actually going to be good? Negative 3 years.
I don't know who this is either. I like the cat's pajamas. I can only see the top part of his right now. But, I mean, if you got 3 starting quarterbacks, 3 starting running backs, and still were able to get Galladay in the 7th, that's just a solid start to me and a solid – I mean, I can't see the rest of his wide receivers.
He's got Galladay, Cooks, Corey Davis, Amon St. Brown, and Eskridge.
Yeah, I like that squad. I think that's very well balanced and well rounded. Got some young quarterbacks in there. All of his quarterbacks are young. He got a young roster. I like his roster.
Yeah.
And getting Galladay in the 7th, I can't believe he fell that far. I mean, maybe because nobody knows if Daniel Jones is going to be able to throw it to him or
everyone. Yeah, no one has faith in Daniel Jones, and I mean, literally, I feel like the only issue with the Giants is that offensive line. I've gone over this many times. I could walk out there and do probably as good as the entire offensive line by myself. Like, they're basically just going like this, and then they're like, oh, good. I didn't realize you were trying to pass me.
They had Saquon Barkley last year completely healthy for week 1. He comes in, and what did he get, 12 yards or something against the Steelers? I mean, that offensive line couldn't block anybody. And then the next week, he was out for the rest of the year.
Yeah, it seems like that offensive line is those really polite Midwesterners where we're like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were trying to get past me. Go ahead. My bad.
Anybody else want to say anything about any other teams? I guess we'll call this a show here and wrap things up.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate Trash Man 83 either. I mean, you're getting Derrick Henry, J.K. Dobbins, Kittle, Mixon, So you've got 3 solid running backs right there with a solid tight end. And then he still manages to get Keenan Allen, DJ Chark, Robert Woods. A quarterback's lacking because then he gets Cousins, Trask, and Ian Book. But Ian Book, and let's say it this way, his team is not looking like it's going to win this year, but it could easily win in a couple years. Once Ian Book, because Ian Book could get that job. You've got 3 quarterbacks there that it's basically just a coin flip as to who's going to end up with it. And Trask isn't the most phenomenal quarterback, but he's also going to be learning from Brady. And he already has skill. He's just not necessarily a Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, one of those guys. But he's got skill, and I think Brady can easily be the guy to be like, yo, I was a 6th-round pick. Let me show you something. I'm going to teach you what Belichick taught me. What's up?
Yeah, David, I really like what you did with your team. I feel like you have a good mix of young and old players. People there's a lot of people I play with. They will draft nothing but young players, and they'll just avoid all the old players. I really like that you kind of went after the Thielen. You went after. I mean, McCaffrey's not that old, but
Oh no!
All I heard was old. I thought he was talking about Frank Gore for a second.
But the one thing that
he's the most valuable player in all of Fame.
I heard Hall of Fame.
Especially
it's like he's talking to a fan. Luke, I am your father.
Poor Travis, man.
She knows this from when Frank Gore started in the league.
We'll say the one regret that I have is, well, I don't know if it's a regret, but I just kind of had to let the draft come to me where there just wasn't really in those middle rounds running backs that I really wanted to go with still having to fill quarterback and some wide receiver. So I knew that kind of after my first 2 picks, I was going to have to be starting wide receiver in my flex spot, just being okay with that. But I appreciate it. Yeah, I think guys like AB and Thielen both have still really good value for this year. I'm always trying to compete every year, so hopefully I could compete with this roster.
I'm still going to stick by the fact that you had probably the biggest steal of the draft with getting DK Metcalf in the 3rd. I mean, most of the time when I'm seeing him, he's going usually early 2nd round. If not, someone takes a chance and grabs him right away in the 1st because they know he's not going to
get a super flex 2 quarterback league, because I see him going that high in a regular just redraft. But in these, I mean, they put so much value on quarterbacks because you don't see this many quarterbacks in the first 2 rounds in a regular league.
No,
in a regular one, you're going to have DK Metcalf 1st round almost all the time. With the Superflex, I still usually see him going early 2nd round because he's usually one of the top 3 wideouts taken off the board. There's people that like me personally, I almost ended up taking him over Tyreek just because of the fact that you do have that youth and he's still putting up Tyreek Hill numbers in a hard division. So it's one of those where usually he is going to be the top 3 wideout off the board. I was kind of surprised that Justin Jefferson jumped up to there because usually either Adams or Diggs is usually the other of the 3 that are taken.
Right, but Adams is much older. Diggs is in a harder division. Jefferson, he don't really have any competition. Nothing to deal with there in the NFC North, in my opinion.
He has a little bit
my favorite receiver this year.
Yeah, I mean, Justin Jefferson still has a little bit of competition because of the fact that the Packers' run defense is complete garbage, but Jair Alexander is phenomenal.
That's right.
So that's one difficult one, and then now you've got the Bears. Their secondary is not super great, but it's not complete trash either. The Lions have Akuda. Akuda's quicker than hell. So he might not be intercepting it much, but he can catch up to you to try to knock that ball off.
I don't know. I feel like those three defenses all stayed just about the same, or they didn't improve enough. And Jefferson feasted on them last year in his first year in the league. I don't see him falling any. He's my favorite. I mean, DK is a close second in my list of favorite, wide receivers this year, especially the younger ones. I've never liked Tyreek Hill, although that may just be that's always been my downfall. I'll let him go every time, and then he rapes me later in the year. So,
right.
I did like Tom Brady falling all the way to the last pick of the 7th round. I mean, even if you're still building a little bit, I like him as your first quarterback. I mean, I could still see him playing another 3 years. How long did Vinny Testaverde play? Till he was like 47? Could he hit that?
Right. Well, and that's what I've been noticing. That's why I said in the beginning that I tend to leave my quarterbacks for a while. And I didn't want to mention Tom Brady's name because I knew then there's a good chance he's not going to make it to me late. But he's always going late. And I don't know if it's just the way the rankings are set up that people are like, oh, I don't have a Tom Brady. But he always ends up dropping, and I get it that he's old, but he's going to get you points right now. So I tend to grab him, and then I'll grab a bunch of young dudes to make it so that when he can't play, I'll have someone that's already coming into their own.
Right.
Well, no, by the time he can't play, all the rest of your quarterbacks are going to be in their 30s.
Already retired. All the rest of my guys are retired. Brady's still there.
Yeah. But he's still a buy. I mean, when you look at older guys like Favre, Manning. I mean, Manning couldn't even feel his hands completely when he was in Denver for the most part, and he has no major injuries since his ACL. How long ago? I just don't really see him slowing down.
2011, I think.
Yeah. Wow, that's 10 years ago.
Yeah. The only problem I have with Brady again, though, and I would pick him in the 7th or the 8th. That makes sense to me. But he's not a fantasy quarterback. He's a great quarterback, but he don't put up the points of a Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott. He doesn't do that.
No.
Right. It's kind of like if you look at Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins might get you solid yardage, but that's it. He's not getting you your touchdowns, and all of a sudden you're looking at it and you're like, Kirk Cousins just killed it on that game. How do I have 10 points? And it's like that's all you had was yardage.
Yeah.
And then you had people like Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler looked horrible in real life. He was throwing interceptions left and right and all that stuff. But then you look at fantasy, and he was doing solid in fantasy. So many people that jump into fantasy football don't seem to think about the fact that you have to look at what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Because you're going to sit there and be like, Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback. But if you take him before anyone else on this board, you have failed as a fantasy football guy right there. Ben Kaiser said, no, you can't. Brady was my first quarterback with Wentz, and it killed me. I mean, that's fair.
Well, yeah, that's because Wentz had the worst year of his career last year. Nobody was going to call that. Everybody expected him to return to his MVP level. It just didn't pan out. But again, that whole team was wretched last year. So,
right.
I got a lot of shares of Brady last year and a lot of redrafts, but then I ended up turning that into a lot of Herbert's during.
Oh, solid.
Because I put a lot of fab bids out for Herbert. When he got his chance there with the LA. So, anything else you guys want to talk about? Otherwise, we can kind of wrap this thing up tonight. We'll be here next week. Thanks.
Are we
David,
doing
for
the mailbag?
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thanks for David for coming on. We appreciate it. Hope to have you again sometime.
Yes, it would be a lot of fun. Thank you guys again. It was a pleasure meeting all you guys, and I look forward to dialoguing more with you guys on Twitter. I'll be sure to add you guys, and I'll see you guys around. Thank you so much.
Yep. All right. Till then, this is True Serum Football. I'm Travis Sumter. You want to take us out, Mike?
As always, stay true.